Hello, everyone. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. We're going to go ahead and get started. So, first of all, thank you for showing up for our webinar on our AI solutions. My name is Sanjay Srivastava. I'm the founder and CEO of Vocareum. And with me, we also have Peter Kim. He's from our software engineering team. And I'll start, as far as the agenda is concerned, I'll start and give you an overview of Vocareum. So for those of you who are not familiar with Vocareum at all, hopefully, I'll give you an idea of what we're up to. And then Peter will, that should take about 15 minutes. And then Peter will go ahead with a demo of our AI lab. And that should take about 20 to 25 minutes. And then there'll be a Q&A session. And also we'll do a drawing. So if you stick with us through the end, we will do a drawing to show our appreciation for a little gift basket. And there are quite a few of us also on the webinar. So please go ahead and ask any questions that you have you have to the chat interface or the Q&A interface, and someone should respond to you. So first of all, a little bit about core products. So we have sort of three class of products. One of the big ones right now, which is as far as our current focus is concerned, is our notebook for learning AI. So just want to make sure there are for learning AI. And what we have been also probably the largest adoption of Vocareum in the second category, these are managed labs for learning AWS, Azure, and GCP. So we'll talk a little bit more about it, but we have over more than 1 million learners learning cloud computing and Vocareum. And then there are labs for learning topics like programming, data science, and data engineering. And we deliver it through our VS Code, Jupyter, and Databricks labs. We have we do operate at a scale. So we have about 3 million learners. This number was taken a few months ago, about a couple of 12,000 live courses. And at one point when we looked at it, we were starting something like 125,000 cloud labs, per day. So, and once again, this is about 6-month-old number. So one of the current focus, as you can imagine, is on AI education. So our thesis right now is that to deliver effective AI education and hands-on learning, you have to deliver cloud resources. So it's no longer good enough that the learners are working on their laptop or even often on your on-prem data centers. And what we mean by cloud resources that we can provide for AI education is the biggest one is GPUs. So often we are getting asked, is like, how do I deliver GPUs now for doing some sort of a training as a part of my class, right? And also it could be maybe you want to get access to an AWS resource. So maybe it's something like SageMaker or Bedrock. Same thing about Azure or GCP. Or you might want to provide access to databases. Databricks is something which we're very proud of it. We started a partnership at the beginning of this year where you can deliver Databricks resources as a part of your class. We'll be talking about OpenAI credits. How do you deliver OpenAI credits to your learners? And then CyberRange, which is a little bit different here, but it's a part of our cybersecurity offering. So this is what we have available today, and hopefully you'll get a sense of it as a part of the demo. But in terms of roadmap, we'll deliver Snowflake resources for your classes. But also we are keeping track of, as you can imagine, any sort of a generative AI systems that are coming out every day. And the important thing here is that these resources, all the resources that we deliver, they cost money. So asking the learners to maybe create a account or whatever, often not practical because they might not have access to the credit card, or what if they have access to the resources, but then they leave maybe a GPU running, and suddenly someone is hit with $1,000 of a GPU budget. And also from an assessment perspective, as an educator, you might want to go and look at in their environment. So because of all those reasons, we believe there's a need for a platform like Vocareum, which can deliver these resources as a part of your learning environment. So the core capability of Vocareum Labs, one of the big ones is rich suite of assessment options. So everything that we do, we need to make sure that that can be part of your assessment strategy. Budget management, and this is again a very, very key part of what we focus on here. How do we make sure that the resources, especially if they're paid resources that you're providing to the learners, that they stay within a budget? And sometimes we spend a lot of energy making sure there's no unintentional or intentional kind of a budget explosions. And these need to be integrated with learning environment, which often means integration, as close an integration with an LMS as possible, but also sometimes if there's a custom learning environment, then we have APIs which are used to integrate with that. And a persistent work area, most of these classes need a project where the learner has to come back and finish them over multiple days, which means that when between sessions, you have to be able to make sure that their work is not lost. This is seemed like a simple requirement, but we have invested a lot of energy making sure you can deliver large data sets. So, sometimes you might want to deliver, tens of gigabytes worth of data set as a part of their project, and our infrastructure supports that. And then often more and more the educators are asking for learner analytics. So we have made a lot of investment in making sure that your data warehouses or your analytics engines have access to all the data that we have on our platform, which will help you visualize or get some insight in the learning environment. So once again, the assessment option, there are a ton of assessment options that we have implemented over time just to make sure that sometimes it's about scale. So auto grading is a big deal. So everything that we do can be auto graded. So auto graded, one of the big advantages is that you can deliver it at scale, as well as the learner gets an instant feedback. Maybe in the middle of the night, they're working on a project and they get instant feedback on their work. Manual grading. So manual grading here means maybe you want to either, instead of auto grading or along with it, you maybe want to give a feedback to the learner in terms of either a expert score, or maybe it's inline comments, which is here. There's some built-in plagiarism detection built in. Of course, this in the age of ChatGPT is becoming a little bit more tricky. But when we said plagiarism detection, it was making sure that we can do comparison amongst the learners' work themselves. Peer review, this is another part of the assessment strategy that we have. Leaderboards. So if you go to our case studies on our website, there are some case studies from Cornell, for example, where they had a leaderboard, and the learners were spending something like, they submitted their assignment 32,000 times to move up the leaderboard, and there's a class of about 500 students. And then more recently, we implemented multiple choice as a part of our assessment tool suite. So how is Vocareum deployed? It's deployed in self-paced online classes. There are some really large classes out there, especially on the MOOC platforms. We have as a part of degree programs, so we have about more than 6,000 universities using us. Boot camps for the last few years have become a more and more interesting use case for us, as well as high stakes exams. So I know I've been talking quite a bit about resource management, but here's some a little bit more data on how do you deliver, let's say, a cloud credential to a learner. So you can basically specify a cloud. You can give an account to a learner, but you can make sure it's constrained. You can constrain by budget, but then you can constrain by policy, which means that you can specify which services are allowed and not allowed. So this makes sure that the learner does not launch some really expensive resources. And then you can specify things like session length. And then we invest energy on, as I was saying, some intentional abuses. So there's a lot of energy around fraud protection. So one of the programs we are really proud of, this is from LinkedIn, that Amazon's Academy program, where we are providing labs and it hit 1 million learners. Here are a couple of more recent so the topic here is the AI, very AI and LLM specific courses that we supported. This one is with Databricks on edX. And then going back to one of the key features that I was talking about is that we are integration into the learning platform. So we do integrate with just about all the major learning management systems. A lot of them is through LTI. For example, Canvas, is one of our sort of big integrations in terms of number of users, and Blackboards and Simplilearn, Coursera. So all of the integrations are currently in production. And we have over 6,000 universities that use us today. And so a little bit about AI Notebook. So this is a product that we launched a few months ago, and based to deliver hands-on AI learning. And what we mean by that is that this notebook should be built from scratch, and you will see it later on. It is providing cost managed access to OpenAI credits and GPUs. But as time goes on, we'll add more and more resources to this platform. So when we say AI notebook, we will be showing 3 different use cases. One of them that you might be teaching prompt engineering. And in this case, if you want to use more advanced models, so you can serve it through OpenAI, their APIs, or you might to train or fine tune a model. This is a use case we are seeing quite a bit, and you need to use GPUs for that, or you fine tune a model using APIs. For example, in this case, using OpenAI, you can fine tune models using GPT 3.5 APIs. So what problem are we really solving? So one of the big ones, as I was mentioning, is that for learners, they not need to create their own account or provision GPU resources, or even figure out, even if you do get access to GPU, how do you move data back and forth between your learning environment to the GPUs? You'll notice there's a very, very simple user interface where with a single click, you can launch your training job on a GPU. And there's no cost explosion, because one of the big thing is to make sure that it stays within the budget. From an instructor's perspective, you can control the budget, you can customize the environment, and you can also use all the assessment strategies that come with Vocareum platform. Our cloud labs, once again, they provide seamless integration to fully manage cloud infrastructure for AWS, Azure, or GCP. Jupyter Notebooks, this is something which we are not going to be talking about right now, but this is probably the second largest deployment of Vocareum. It's used quite a bit in data science classes. We support VS Code and IntelliJ for your programming of full stack classes. And Cyber Ranges is surprisingly is becoming really, really popular for us. A lot of universities must be launching new cyber classes, so we're seeing quite a bit of request for that. And Databricks, and I think I've already mentioned that we launched a partnership with Databricks where we are providing labs for Databricks environment. And it has all the capabilities, like you can manage it, and it's a part of our learning environment, so you can use all the assessment infrastructure. So once again, we are integrated with learning environment. For example, using either LTI or some custom integrations. We provide REST APIs, and REST APIs are used for primarily a couple of reasons. Sometimes it is for integration into a custom tool, but also it is used for managing your content. So often it's used for keeping our environment up to date, maybe with a Git repo where you are managing your content, and also to get learner analytics that I had mentioned earlier on. So that's all I have on my side. And at this point, what I will do is I'll hand it to Peter for the demo. And as I was saying, that after the demo, we'll have some Q&A and also do a drawing. So Peter, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter, and I'm a senior engineer here at Vocareum. I am once again here to give a demonstration about our latest advancement into the field of AI, what we call the Vocareum Notebook. If you were here for our last webinar, then some of this may be review, but please stick around because there are still new developments that we've made that we would love to show off. For those of you who are new to us, what is the Vocareum Notebook? The Vocareum Notebook is our completely custom, built from the ground up IDE specifically designed to enhance the experience of learning AI. Generative AI has taken the world by storm, and the demand for learning about it has never been greater. However, we all know that properly training or using a model does not come cheap, and one of the roadblocks for teaching anything ML/AI related has been provisioning and managing GPU resources for the learner. Well, I am happy to announce that with Vocario Notebook, we are solving this issue by introducing both OpenAI and GPU budgets. In this demo, I'll be showing you how these work, as well as some of the other awesome features that are coming with Vocario Notebook. Before we begin, however, I will mention that everything you are about to see is in beta and is subject to change before release. However, Vocario Notebook is currently available now for pilot testing, and if you would like to experience it for yourself, then please contact us after the webinar. With that said, let's start by seeing what the experience is like from the learner's point of view. So I'm going to be showing off 3 notebooks today. The first is our auto grading notebook. So with this notebook, I'm going to be demonstrating how we've implemented a highly requested feature, auto grading, into our Vocario notebook. Those of you who are familiar with using Jupyter notebooks on our platform will know how we use MB Grader to set up custom auto grader cells, which are then run when the student submits their notebook. While the setup from the instructor's point of view is not quite ready to be shown off yet, for the final release, it will be very similar to what we do for our release notebook flow, if you're familiar with that. So what I have here is a simple notebook explaining how to use data analytics with pandas. I'm going to go ahead and run all the cells so that we can see the outputs, and I can just confirm that I'm satisfied with what I want to submit. So everything looks pretty good. And now that I'm satisfied with it, I'm going to go ahead and submit the assignment so it can be auto-graded. So it's going to take a few seconds for the grading to happen. But behind the scenes, we're performing all the asserts that are defined by the instructor and inserting the auto-grader cells. As you can see here, once the grading finishes, we provide instant feedback to the user directly on the notebook, as well as any comments that are provided by the instructor. As you can see here, we have the grades as well as the comments, any feedback, and with these grades, if the assignment is linked to your LTI, these grades will automatically be passed back and updated for the learners. Okay, it's the second notebook that I will be demonstrating is our OpenAI integration. So in the assignment settings, an instructor can enable and set a budget for OpenAI usage. I'll be going over how to set these budgets after the learner experience portion. In this example, I've set the budget to $2, which you can see quickly at a glance in the bottom right corner here. If a budget has been enabled, then every learner that uses the Vocario notebook will automatically have a Vocario managed OpenAI key associated with them that can be used with our Vocarium API endpoint, which will then forward the request directly to OpenAI. So here, I have it covered right now, but this is where the learner can go to see their key that's tied with the assignment. So in this notebook, let's go ahead and run some of these cells. Here I've defined a helper function that is going to feed a prompt to the GPT 0.5 Turbo model and then print its response. So after we load the API key and base, I'm going to point out that it's not mandatory to use our key and API endpoint here, and the learner is free to use their own OpenAI key as well as the regular OpenAI base URL if they wish. With that said, using our budgeted API key is not restricted to only within the Vocareum platform. Users can use the API from anywhere on the internet. The Vocareum managed API key is stored as an environment variable within the Jupyter kernel, as you can see here, but you can also see the key by clicking on the budget panel, as I showed before. So using the notebook, let's explore the two primary ways a user can use their budgeted key to send prompts to OpenAI. So the first method is what we call the prompt cell type. This is a Vocareum Notebook exclusive, and because Vocareum Notebook renders everything natively, we are able to create powerful custom cell types that you won't find in a regular Jupyter Notebook, such as the auto-grading cells that we were showing in the previous assignment. This special cell type can be created just like any markdown or code cell. And once created, it asks the user for a prompt, which will then send it to OpenAI using the budgeted API key. So let's try asking OpenAI for some tips on what makes a good prompt. Oh, okay. Try that again. I think there's an issue with the key. Let me try fixing this real fast. Okay, yeah, so unfortunately, our key isn't working, but basically what would happen here is that we would send off the prompt and we would just get the response from OpenAI and show it directly to the learner. But I'll move on to what's hopefully a bit more exciting is the our model training notebook. So for the sake of time efficiency, I'm going to click this button, run training right now, and then I'm going to explain what it does because it's going to take a couple of minutes to complete. So the second assignment I have will be demonstrating our GPU integration. Once again, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see at a glance the remaining GPU budget for the learner, which for this assignment has been set to 30 minutes. So the first notebook, oh, I accidentally trained the wrong notebook. Oops. So the first notebook here downloads and trains a GPT-2 model. As we all know, training and tuning a model can take a very long time depending on the size of the dataset and the model being used, to the point where it would be infeasible to do so on the CPU. However, with Vocareum Notebook, we are introducing the ability to send training jobs to a separate GPU machine, which will then run the notebook, execute all the cells, and save the notebook with its outputs as a separate copy. For this demo, I've created a text file with around 500 Harry Potter trivia questions, which I will be using to train the model. This notebook will save the model that we created to the work area so that it can then be run, used with our second notebook, which will then, we'll be using inference to ask our model some questions about Harry Potter. So I'm just going to let the job run. It will take a couple minutes.
Peter, in the meantime, do you have a previous run you can show it? Like a output from the previous run? I don't know whether in the batch execution.
Oh, so this was the other notebook that I ran. So
Oh,
I ran
okay.
the inference notebook on accident, but because the model has not yet been created, I'm pretty sure it's not going to show anything useful.
Okay.
So yeah, we're seeing some errors here.
Because the model was not
Yeah,
there
the model
already.
was not created yet.
Okay.
Okay, so we can see that the training was successfully completed. And here under the batch executions directory, we can see the results of the notebook that we just ran. And here at the bottom, this is just to show that we are indeed running the job on a GPU machine. It has 16 gigabytes, as we can see here. And if we look at the work area, we can see that we have the model created. And now we can use our second notebook, the inference notebook, to ask it some questions. So for the second notebook, instead of running the job on the GPU, because the model has been created, now we can just do all the operations on the CPU. So with our model ready to go, we can test it out by asking it a couple prompts. So once again, we'll be using a start the kernel. Give this page refresh. Okay, so okay, so we see that there's a few warnings about not having CUDA. That's because, again, this is being run on the CPU now. So let's test out the model by asking it a question. What is a thestral? So see what our model gives us.
So we are using GPT-2 model, right?
Yes.
As a foundation model, so which did not know anything about Harry Potter, right? That's the
Yes.
theory. Okay.
So it says that a thestral is a sentient species of magical creature. That sounds pretty accurate. And we're going to try one more. Name a Quidditch position. And we get Seeker. So for those of you curious, I can actually kind of show what the Q&A file looks like. So it's basically a bunch of questions and answers related to Harry Potter. And there was no cheating here. These specific questions were not in the text, but there were a lot of questions related to keywords such as Quidditch and such. But the GPT-2 model isn't the strongest out there, but it does work for kind of simple training such as this. And that concludes the learner experience section of the demo. So now I can briefly show how to enable these budget features as an instructor. So this is the instructors page. And if we go to an assignment, so this is the prompt engineering assignment that I showed off before. Under the resources section, there's a couple options to enable GPU execution or open AI API key generation. So the prompt engineering assignment focus on OpenAI. So we have just that defined. And then we set a budget of $2. Let me go back to the GPU assignment because, yeah, I wanted to show that once the job was run, there's immediate feedback to the user showing how long the job took, as well as how much budget they have remaining. And what we're currently working on is kind of a history table of the executions. So this would be for both OpenAI and GPU, so that the learner knows exactly, how they're accruing their expenses for the budgets, as well as, any outputs of executions. So yeah, going back to the assignments page, same thing goes for model training. You can see that we have a time budget defined. And in addition to setting budgets at the part level, an instructor can, of course, go to an individual's budget and then give any extensions if they want. So switching to a user-specific budget, you can customize the budget for each learner and give extensions as necessary. From the org admin's point of view, so if you're an admin of your organization, what we have here is kind of what we call our scaling, kind of our cluster scaling page. So if you want to provide GPU access to your learners, you would use this page to kind of set a scaling policy and define, okay, how many instances do you want at a time? How do you want to scale up and scale down? You have the option to use spot instances to minimize on cost, as well as set the instance type. There are a lot of metrics here, so I don't want to spend too much time going over all of them, but this is how you can basically create one or more clusters that the instructors can then select for a particular assignment to be used. And with that, that pretty much concludes my part of the demo.